don't have any trouble.
Make sure you download these episodes so if an apocalypse happens, you'll have access to them forever.
Okay. All right. Okay. All
Or
right. I'm
just
rolling
maybe
with it.
this episode specifically, maybe not all of them.
Yeah. I mean, you're listening to it now. Why not just download it and give us 5 stars on whatever
Yeah.
podcast platform you're listening to? Would make us happy.
Okay, I'll do it. 3, 2, 1. Oh, hold on, my computer did something. All right, there we go.
Okay.
So one of the things I have set to open at startup was delayed, so I closed it. All right. When the apocalypse inevitably happens, this episode will be invaluable. So make sure you give it a listen, download it right now, and then when the apocalypse happens, you'll have access to it forever. Welcome to Not Just Any Book Club. This month we're talking about apocalyptic fiction.
Post-apocalyptic fiction, to be honest.
Post-apocalyptic fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess apocalyptic fiction would be like about the actual process of the world ending.
Not this time.
Not this time. Yeah, so post-apocalyptic fiction. My name is Pierce. I read The Road by Cormac McCarthy.
And I'm Justin, and I just read I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. What's his name? Oh my god, I should know this. Something, yeah, it's somewhere in the ballpark of that. You can trust me that I got the name somewhat right. And I'm telling you, right now in the apocalypse, not just any book club episodes will be used as currency, so make sure to really stock up on these episodes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Um,
apocalypse. We were doing this because we really wanted to do The Last of Us. And
yeah.
yeah, behemoth of an episode. But it was a quality episode nonetheless, so you can check out that episode that we uploaded last week on all podcasting platforms and our YouTube channel. So be sure to check that out. And, you know, The Last of Us is a post-apocalypse setting. I wouldn't say it's a genre, but I mean, I guess in a way, more of a setting. Which is, after the apocalypse happens, a lot of stuff just crumbles down and a lot of people die. In my case, it was a disease, and in Pierce's case, it was
I
something.
don't think it's ever outright said.
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember it either. I also read The Road, so I may be able to illuminate some points. Um, but
It's caused by a
everyone.
meteor strike.
Oh, yeah, that is actually interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I will say that I did read The Road. I am less of a fan of Cormac McCarthy than Riley Pierce is, considerably so. I know. Don't shoot the messenger here, which I am the messenger of my own message, so maybe you could. It's just a hard thing. But I have read it. I do have my valid complaints, not my valid complaints, my unpopular takes about it. And yeah, the apocalypse, the post-apocalypse genres talks about how society continues to move forward, or really humanity continues to move forward. And or in my case, a human moves forward after everything is gone. Really, no point in living anymore. It's just terribleness everywhere because nothing works. You can't listen to Not Just an Evil Club when you want to, and there's yeah, really. And I think post-apocalypse, the post-apocalypse setting really explores what it means to just live rather than just merely survive. Um, at least in many of the stories that we've read about this. So
Yes. Because I mean, once you get into it, you can have people who just survive, but the human condition has become more than that as we've like built societies and um yeah, the humanity is more than just surviving. And so if you're in a situation where living is no longer easy, of course it brings out that it really lends itself to that exploration of the human condition.
yeah. So should I go first and talk about I Am Legend?
We've both read The Road, so probably
Okay,
is what
give
I
me a
would say.
second. I'll take it. Okay, so I Am Legend. This was written in 1954. It was by the American writer Richard Matheson, who wrote a lot of just speculative fiction, especially some of the best Twilight Zone episodes. I can't remember particularly what episodes he wrote, but apparently, um, he was very prolific in his day. Not very prolific. He wasn't as well known as probably the best known science fiction authors. He recently passed in 2013, but he recently just saw like his works get popularized. There's What Dreams May Come, which is a movie starring Robin Williams, which I mean I thought was all right. Other people like it. He also wrote some other speculative fiction like Frankie Man. Um, all of these prolific science fiction works that may not have the staying power, but like they are well-known concepts. He also wrote Nightmare 20,000 Feet. The episode from Twilight Zone where the guy's in a plane, he starts envisioning a monster on the wing of an airplane. Which is,
The really weird episode, that's the one you're talking about?
really, yeah. It
just
was.
just just the guy in the on the wing. It looks so weird.
You've
It's
seen
like,
that, huh?
yeah. I don't know, it's not really scary by modern
Okay,
standards. I don't think. It just looks really weird. He makes like a weird face. Go watch that
yeah.
episode if you haven't seen it. It is interesting, but he makes like a weird face on the airplane wing.
Or you
It's
can watch,
funny.
or you can watch the Simpsons parody of it. Either or, you'll
Mm.
have a good time. But yeah, no, this guy was really well known. And I Am Legend is probably one of the most influential science fiction works. At least in the post-apocalyptic genre, because this kind of planted the idea. I don't want to say. I know it had to do with Haitian magic or something like that. That's where the zombies really came from. But this is where the idea of a zombie apocalypse came from, and it doesn't have zombies as the main antagonist, but it was very influential as to like how someone would survive the zombie apocalypse and how someone would basically just go their day to day in an apocalypse and just try to survive using science because the protagonist, Robert Neville, is just this ordinary guy, and lives in Los Angeles. And basically, he is literally the last person that he has seen in this post-apocalypse for like 20 years. He's just very secluded. He has no one to love, and he has not seen another living human being in who knows how long. He kind of lost track of time, even though he's very anal about like having a watch on him at all times. But what I really liked about this was that the fact that the main antagonist, just like vampires, um, he wonders why it's like so closely akin to just like the myth. Like, vampires are afraid of just garlic and crosses and mirrors. I know I really should have highlighted the explanations why, but there is always a scientific reason. It's never really explained why they're so close to just like the myth, but it happens to be that way. And he gives an explanation for it, which I mean, I'm no scientist, but it sounds scientifically accurate-ish in a way. If you really stretch what accurate is, it is just I don't know. I like at least the attempts to explain it and actually give a scientific grounding to it. Um, and I mean, Robert Neville, I it doesn't reveal his backstory, but I don't think he was a scientist or anything. But he basically holds himself up in a library and just reads scientific texts like over and over again, like laboriously, which I think was really interesting and adds kind of a depth to his character because he doesn't really show any emotion. He just again he's very hardened by the apocalypse and not having anything to do. He's very depressed. He's very isolated. I think he stocks up on beer and alcohol from a local bar. Um, and the most important part about this, for some reason, of all the myths, this part of the myth he didn't realize that vampires only come out at night and they're nocturnal and they get hurt by sunlight. I'm pretty sure Dracula was out by then, and there are a couple vampire novels before this, but for some reason, Robert Neville
So
didn't know it.
that's okay. So the main character didn't know. Like
Yeah,
who
no,
didn't
he didn't
know?
know. Yeah,
He just
Robert
did. He
Neville.
just straight up didn't know. He had no
Yeah,
idea.
it was like,
Okay.
yeah, it was like a scientific discovery. Like, sunlight that hurts them. Which,
Because I remember in the movie they make a big deal out of it. Like it's like a huge thing. Um,
yeah,
like it's like kind of I mean, like these things are so dangerous, and in the film he's like trying to get away, and the only way he's really able to get away is by sunlight. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, he just didn't know it up until it happens in the book. And it's like, oh, I can come out during the day. I don't know why. But the thing that I have not seen the movie, but I've seen everyone complain about the movie, and I'm pretty sure you know about
mm,
its infamous ending, how it completely changes. I won't try to spoil the ending,
yeah.
but like, there's a lot of foreshadowing, sort of little thing. Um, One, I think the biggest thing from the clips I've seen from the movie is that the vampires are completely different. They're
Hmm.
very cognizant, in the book. They're actually able to talk. He looks at his neighbor. I forgot what the guy's name is. His name was Ben, and he's able to talk to him and able to have a conversation with them. They don't look like the vampires they do. That like in the movie. And again, also he's alone. He doesn't have anyone to talk to. And it does dive into his internal thoughts and everything because, like, again, he's not seen another human being. He knows the vampires are vampires because of the very pale skin. And they do try to use strategies to lure him out because they're scared of him. And I think the most important part is here is that Robert Neville, basically, he just brazenly goes outside and just starts picking off vampires and like sometimes even
Hmm.
kidnaps them to like perform experiments on them, which is very interesting because you never really see a very scientific based apocalypse like that, like someone that's so ardent on just like trying to find out what it was. And I don't know, I think it's very interesting, as to, like, how it revolves around this idea of just a man trying to really understand the world around him, and even though he's very depressed, he even mentions why, like, he doesn't know why he's not suicidal, as in, like, he has no reason to be living, but now he's just mainly just surviving, um and he does hold this part of grief with him. He had to kill his wife and also had to bury her and also bury her daughter in like a sanctioned bonfire to essentially just ward off all the corpses. And eventually, society crumbles and he's the last person living. And it does explore that idea as well. These concepts aren't very well explored as well as I wanted to. Again, it was very it's you would expect to be more pulpy, and I do appreciate the attempt for it to like kind of ground it and ask these ideas about prejudice. There's an element of prejudice here which I do not want to spoil, which is kind of interesting, but I
Hmm.
don't want to discuss it. Maybe we'll put a little bit of a time stamp and say where you should cut off because I think the ending is very important, and the movie misses that completely. Um, and but I don't even know what I'm saying. Basically, it is very interesting attempt to ground the apocalypse. It just the tension wasn't there. The pacing is really weird too. And like this is one section of the book where it's supposed to be this very tense scene where basically he realizes his watch is broken. And once he realizes his watch is broken, he was like, "Oh man, I only have like a couple hours to get to my house. Otherwise, I'm gonna get destroyed because nighttime is when they come out." And basically, barely survives his attempt. His car gets destroyed, his house and generator gets destroyed. It's like, oh no, what am I gonna do? And it ends there. Next chapter is like, oh, was it destroyed? I got a new car. Like it kind of deflates all the tension. And
Hmm.
it could have used a little bit more of I guess emotional grounding. There was a really good dog scene, which I really liked, and did give emotional depth to him, but it just wasn't there. And I sh I didn't love it up until the end where it posed a very interesting question. I don't know if you
Hmm.
want me to discuss
So
the ending, but
what I will say at least about the ending in the film is that they I don't know if you've heard they're making a second movie
where the
where and they're basically retconning the ending
yeah,
of the film, and they're going to bring it more in line with the ending of the book.
yeah,
Uh,
or the
and I'm
alternative
guessing
ending.
And I'm guessing what you're talking about, the fact that it poses a really interesting question is probably why people were so upset about them changing it, because like the ending is
It's pivotal.
pretty
It's
yeah.
the emotional fulcrum of this entire thing.
Mhm.
Well, spoilers ahead. So basically, um, he meets up with this woman named Ruth, who is basically the only woman he's started talking to. Basically, this is the only person he's seen in like around 20 to 30 years. He's so shocked. He basically is unable to speak to her. And then basically he brings her back to um, his place. and she starts wondering why, like, he starts wondering why she's so afraid of garlic. She doesn't want to be seen out in the sunlight, and he starts to suspect maybe this woman's a vampire, but no, they can walk out in the daylight and everything. So he's like, no. Um, Still, he kind of starts to get along with her, and then Ruth, this woman's name was, basically starts lashing out at him, and just escapes and just barely knocks him out and wakes up the next day with the Ruth explaining, "Hey, I'm a vampire. We've evolved, and I was here to basically get information. I'll try to ward them off, but run while you can." Um, and he doesn't take that seriously for some reason. He just stays at home because he's in disbelief, going like, "Nah, there's no way these vampires could really come and get me." Eventually, they do. They break into his house, and surprisingly, they're civil about it because at the end, it's realizing he realizes that the vampires have essentially evolved into basically just humans, and it does pose a very interesting question here because now we've been following Neville this entire time. He essentially becomes the legend, this thing to be feared, in the eyes of the Vampire Society because, he's been kidnapping them, he's been killing them indiscriminately, and he's been performing all these cruel experiments on these people now. Which I'm like, "Okay." And, they're sent to be they basically go to his house to execute him. There's an entire vampire mob, just wanting for his execution to be done. He takes the easy way out and commits suicide instead. Um, Here's the thing about that, though. The thing is, I'm like, I have no idea how you're supposed to like generalize this to like prejudice among the human population because
Mm.
they didn't like. It's not very applicable if if they were actually posed a threat before and then they evolved later on. And it was impossible for you to actually kind of civilize them and quote unquote, because again, they were basically just trying to survive, or no, they were basically ingrained for you to actually attack anybody. It's it c- the metaphor gets kind of muddled throughout. It is supposed an interesting
Yeah,
idea. Yeah.
I understand that. I definitely get what you're saying about the metaphor getting muddled. What I would say about it, based off of obviously just what I've heard from you, is that the point the larger point I think is just the matter of perspective, because
Mhm.
we've been following. You don't know when they evolved, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, like, you don't actually. He could have been It could have been that he was doing experiments on them, they evolved, and he's been doing experiments now on evolved creatures for a while, and
Yeah,
they've been
that's actually,
aggressive towards him
yeah.
because they know who he is, or they know that he's been like violent towards them.
Mhm.
So it's, I, yeah, I think the larger question is still there, just based off what I'm hearing.
Yeah. It's probably the worst metaphor for racism I've seen since Zootopia.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
like,
I don't think. Yeah, from the way you're putting it, it doesn't sound like a very good metaphor for racism. It does sound like a very good thought experiment in perspective, about
yeah,
perspective. But it does not seem like a very good
yeah,
very
it kind
good
of
metaphor for
it,
racism.
it falls down like a house of cards. I mean, I did really enjoy it in a pulpy kind of way, but I'm like, hmm. The more you think about it, it's just kind of wrong. It does pose an interesting question because among the Vampire Society, there's also scientists that like are trying to preserve the strain that is helping them evolve. And here's Neville that's trying to eradicate it because he's essentially become a scientist. So, and that kind of is generalized to our real world because Nazis, Operation Paperclip, we had a bunch of scientists that developed the rocket that was basically the only reason why we could get to the moon. And there have been, even though Nazis were evil, spoiler alert if you
Mm.
don't read your history, they have been
Spoiler
able to,
alert.
spoiler alert. They've been able to develop, I don't use their great technology, but like technology that was kind of advanced. And I don't know if
Mhm.
it's probably because of the war and very unfortunate circumstances. And
Well, yeah, and well, they had a rocketry division for missiles.
yeah,
Wunderwaffe, something like that. I don't
yeah,
remember. Um, so that was that. You know, yeah.
yeah. So I enjoyed it. I don't hate every book that I find problems with, but like I enjoyed it for what it was. I don't think I'm ever gonna reread this again, but could well happen.
I I mean, to you, I would slightly recommend the movie. It wasn't a waste of my time, from what I remember. Although,
Yeah,
like, it wasn't my favorite movie. Um, so you read the book. They're coming out with a sequel to the movie. Maybe give the movie a shot.
I would
But
probably hate watch it. Maybe.
hate watch it. Well, whatever.
Yeah,
It's
sure there's a different
I
ending.
didn't think it was that bad. It wasn't like a waste of my time or anything, but it wasn't also was not great.
Yeah,
Wasn't incredible. Um,
yeah.
well,
Uh,
you had something else to say?
yeah. Yeah, no, I was just like treat it as its own movie and try to ignore the fact that it was based on a book. But even though I don't know, that's like it's apparently really hard to ignore the fact that it's literally called I Am Legend, and it kind of just betrays the source material. I'm assuming because like I see it like the mother or the wife and then the daughter, right? Are they present in the film or something like that?
Uh, all I can remember off the top of my head, I watched this movie a long time ago. He's alone with his dog for most of the movie,
Oh,
and then there's like a community of people, but he only meets with like one of them, like a
oh, that's
scientist or something.
that's so whatever.
But
Okay,
like
I'm
he,
good.
but like I don't remember. I can't remember anything about the community. The community might honestly not be real, but I can't.
It
Again,
was
I
all a
haven't
dream.
seen this movie in forever. No, I mean like somebody was lying to him. I can't.
Oh,
I might be lying right now because I cannot remember. My brain might be making up false memories trying to remember this movie.
okay.
Um. So yeah, don't quote me on any of that. I do remember the scientist woman, but I
Oh,
don't remember much about. I think his family's dead.
oh.
Um, in the movie.
Actually, while we're talking about do you remember the ending?
Oh,
The actual movie ending. I've
I
heard
think
I heard he
I think he
sacrifices himself.
dies.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
sacrifices
he
himself.
like sacrifices himself for the cure or something. That
And
with the
that's
scientist lady whose name I can't remember any of their names to be honest. So,
okay. I'm guessing
um,
that's why it's called I Am Legend because he's a
he becomes a human legend.
oh.
Uh, okay, all right, okay. I remember. Okay, hold on. I just looked it up. I know where I'm getting the colony thing, the like society thing from. Because he sacrifices himself, which lets the other survivors he's with escape, and then they go find a colony and they bring the cure with them that they can then
Oh.
you know use to save humanity. This is
So
like
they
not even the same at all. Like the monsters are different. The ending is completely different.
there are actual other people there, which kind of
Yeah.
defeats the purpose of it being a post-apocalypse. Yeah, it's probably like World War Z, the movie and the book. I haven't read the book. I've had the audiobook, which I heard the audiobook is fantastic, but the movie,
Hmm.
World War Z, it's all right. So I guess it's the theme here. Hollywood can't really adapt a lot of books most of the time, and eventually sometimes we get No Country for Old Men, but that's seldom the case. Anyways, that's all I have to say. Man, there is a sequel coming out. What? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah. No, it is, and they're he's taking inspiration from The Last of Us in like the world building and stuff.
I don't know how much
With
that
like
cancels out, but like,
overgrowth, the like nature taking the cities back and stuff like that.
okay.
But that's just like that has nothing to do with plot or anything. That's just like world building stuff. Like
There
the
have been other movie adaptations, at least two. Um, there's The Last Man on Earth, and which was released in 1964, which with Vincent Price apparently that's pretty decent, and the Omega Man, which stars Charlton Heston. The only fact I know about this movie is that Charlton Heston is a probably he's not the nicest guy nowadays, or I think he might be dead. I don't know. He was a very famous actor, but he was very adamant about the woman being what was her name, being a black woman, and it was very
Yeah.
unusual for very taboo. I would even say is just for for an interracial kiss to be happening. So he it, it was a landmark thing for an interracial kiss to be shown in a movie, especially with Charlton Heston, a big name actor at the time. So I guess that's the movie's legacy right there. I
All
don't know.
right. Well, to get back on track to books, I guess. Um, yeah, I guess maybe I'll be removing I Am Legend from my TBR, to be honest. So one book off my TBR. It's not that like if I guess if like, you know, I had the opportunity to, like it was right in front of me and I was looking for something to read, I would consider it. But I'm gonna take it off my TBR because my TBR is full of books that like
Your
I
TBR
would
is
like
full.
have to full like as in the
Mine,
majority of the
yeah,
books that are there are books that I like don't own. I know yours is like magnitudes bigger than mine because you
yeah,
add every book you see on Goodreads
yeah.
to it, but
Um, this
I'm
is
a
a
little
good
more
airplane novel.
selective.
This is a good
Yeah,
airplane
but
novel. I'll say that.
probably you could yeah. And I think it's short enough that you could probably finish it in a flight, right?
Yeah, it's like 100 some 92 pages, less than 200. So
Okay.
definitely that.
Well, The Road. So, Cormac McCarthy. Everybody knows who Cormac McCarthy is, right? Like, I don't.
Oh, my favorite author.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So Cormac McCarthy. Some people say he's the greatest author still alive. I don't. I probably need to read more literature written recently to have a say on that, but he's pretty good. Pretty good, I think. I would say.
Hmm.
Um. Some people say he's overrated. I'd say maybe. Yeah, I like him, and I would say some people overrate him. But nonetheless, um, Blood Meridian is worth the hype, though. I will stand by that. Um, where I'm getting a little off track here. Cormac McCarthy. So some people say he's one of the greatest authors still alive today, and still writing. I believe he just released his last book.
Passenger and
Like,
something.
yeah. So he's old now. He's really old, and he's still putting out books. So we'll see. That might be his last one, but um, The Road itself, very influential. He won a Pulitzer for this. After reading it, I would say that the Pulitzer was probably more of like a lifetime
A
achievement
legacy.
than a legacy achievement than a this book is 100% like should be the Pulitzer. Although maybe no better books came out that year. I don't know. Um, I seem to be framing this as if I didn't like it. I did. I just didn't think it was that good. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, so he won the Pulitzer for The Road, and The Road went on to influence post-apocalyptic media going forward, namely The Last of Us. The Last
Which
of
is
Us
why he
was
read this, to be honest.
hugely influenced. No, I actually read it because every time you say you hate a popular
Oh
book
yeah.
on here, I read it and I'm like, it's not. It's either I'm like, this is amazing, or it's not that bad. If you didn't know, for Cormac McCarthy month, Justin read The Road and he did not like it at all. Um,
Yeah. I
are,
mean, not at all is a hard. It's very harsh,
I
but like
listen. I know your rating system is messed up. You gave it a 2 out of 5 on
which
Goodreads, which
translates
two
to
to
a
you
five-ish,
means
five-ish
okay
out of
for
10.
some reason.
Okay.
Um, but nonetheless, you thought it was just okay, and it's like it's supposed to be an all time great. Regardless, I would actually probably agree that it's not.
No.
not even Cormac McCarthy's best. I do not agree that it's just okay. I think it's a little bit better than just okay, but
Okay.
it's yeah. So the road is there's not really a lot of plot here. The focus is really on this relationship between a man and his boy, his son, surviving in the apocalypse or the post-apocalypse, um, and uh, it gets really dreary. To me, it was a little boring at times, and maybe that was part of it. I don't know. It felt a little boring at times, but then I would be like, "Oh, it's starting to get a little boring," and then something would happen. So like they would get approached by this other group of people that the father was scared of, or like a scene I really liked, or well, a chapter or a section I really liked was the section where they found the apocalypse shelter, the bomb shelter that whoever lived in this house never got to use. I thought that was a really cool section. Um, as you get on towards the end, I felt really good about it. I really enjoyed kind of the last probably 50 to 75 pages. Um, but yeah, nonetheless, like I love books with not very much plot. Like there are a
The
lot of books
vibes.
that I really enjoy where the focus is just vibes or characters or character relationships or whatever. But this book, I think, kind of suffers from it. There's just not a lot going on because it's such a dreary and drab post-apocalypse. Um, Justin, you look a little vindicated. You've got a vindicated
This
look
might
on
be the
your face.
first time that we've ever been like
This
in
this
agreement
is
and contrary to the critics.
yeah, this yeah. What I will say about it having won a Pulitzer, I will talk about the writing style, which I know Cormac McCarthy kind of gets some crap for his writing style for a lot of like younger readers, I
Oh
guess.
no, he called me young.
Um, yeah, um, which I get, but at the same time, I think it also lends him he's a really it's really unique, and it's the things that he's made fun of for I don't view as bad
Mhm.
necessarily. I'm kind of neutral on them, and so the uniqueness makes it so that way I find it really interesting, and I really liked it in Blood Meridian. Here, the structure and writing style, um, it really it does kind of add to the oppressive nature of the apocalypse. Like
Okay.
it does feel really oppressive. Um, I think the biggest thing that I would say about the structure is that it's not something that I really remember ever seeing. It felt, especially because it's not really divided into chapters. He does the like dot thing to separate sections. It makes it feel like a journal almost is a feeling
Mm.
I got, which is it's not written in first person. Um so
Okay.
so like it's not literally that, but it feels like that. It feels like we're getting this kind of day-to-day experience of these two people in the apocalypse. Or the post-apocalypse.
Yeah.
um, so I mean, that's what I would say about the writing style and structure. If you don't like Cormac McCarthy's writing style, you're probably not going to like at least any of the books of his that I've read. But if you can get past that, I feel like it does offer something unique. Um,
Yeah.
I thought that this relationship between the two was interesting. The biggest thing that's influenced specifically The Last of Us, which I mentioned, is the idea that this young person is a beacon of hope in a
A symbol,
really
really.
dark world. Yeah, symbol. Um, and um, it's it's interesting because it becomes clear in the road that the father probably needs the boy more than the boy needs the father, and the boy does think he needs the father, um, but uh, I was about to spoil the book without even like giving a spoiler warning, which I guess I can. Spoiler warning.
Yeah.
In
Spoilers
a
for the
book
road
with
from here
very
on out.
spoilers for the road in a book that doesn't really have that much plot, anyways. The father towards the end starts getting sick, and then he dies.
Hmm.
And so at the end, the boy is left on his own, but he finds another person, and he, I would assume that he goes on to be as okay as he can in this like post-apocalypse. But obviously, the father dies, and it's very clear that like if the father didn't have him, he would probably take his own life. Like it was
Yeah.
he needs the boy to keep going, and the boy, um, while he's still probably too young to take care of himself, he clearly doesn't need the father 100%. Like as soon as he's kind of able to take care of himself, he'll be good.
Hmm.
Um, and one criticism also that you made that I was on the lookout for was the boy speaking like an adult. Um, or like what an adult thinks a kid
Hmm.
should speak like. I I didn't really get that as much, to be honest.
Hmm.
Um, I I mean, I was on the lookout for it. I really was. It felt like honestly more what it suffered from was an adult, like he was just writing a character, and then he threw in some like words that children might say,
Hmm.
or like to make him seem more like more childlike. Um,
Jeez.
yeah. I to be honest, like I don't feel like there's that much more to say about
I
this book. It's very like it's supposed to be very like overwhelming and kind of leave you with this numb
hmm
feeling, this
of like
sense
all
of
this terrible stuff.
hopelessness.
Yeah.
All this terrible stuff is happening. And the relationship between the boy and the father is supposed to be like the one good thing.
Yeah. And
Um,
it is also important to mention that the boy kind of not kind of prevents the father from going over at the edge,
yes.
because there's that one part in the book where he has this guy at gunpoint with a flare gun, and he forces him to strip some of his clothes, which is kind of like unnecessary. And they walk away, and the boy becomes very distressed. He's like, "Why did he do that?" And then he comes back and repairs it, and then it's not there anymore. So he was trying,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, and there's other moments like that. Like the boy makes the dad give some old man who's I think he's vision impaired
yeah, something like that. I remember
food.
this.
He makes him give him food, even though obviously the father doesn't want to. Like we only have so much. Like we
Hmm.
can't just go around handing out food. But he does it anyway. He listens to the boy.
Hmm.
So there's something to be said about like the innocence of youth, but also I mean Cormac McCarthy. This was written in like 2005 or
Uh,
something, 2004,
oh, it's published in
2006.
2006.
Yeah, right. So this Cormac McCarthy is obviously he's old now. He was still pretty advanced in age back then.
Yeah.
I think honestly what this book is about, because everybody knows books about the future aren't really about the future. They're about today under
Hmm.
the surface. And so what I think this book is really about is um whatever, because he said in an interview that the reason why he didn't want to really focus on why there was an apocalypse. I just read that when I looked up what
Yeah.
caused it. He didn't want to focus on the cause. And so like I think the point is regardless of what got adults who are voting and running the world, regardless of what got them into crappy situations, whether it's you know historically, like civil rights, um, the lack thereof, I mean, and the protests for them. Currently, climate change, um, other stuff that's not coming to mind, oppressive structures,
It's
et
an entire
cetera, et
list.
cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an entire list. Regardless of what that situation in the world is, it's young people who are really going to like help us see the light, help us find our way out of it, help us change in the ways that are needed. And I think that that's, I mean, that's an inclination and a thing that I've heard said by a lot of adults, and I heard them say it when I was very young. And so I think that that's something that Cormac McCarthy is trying to get across in his. Um, I don't know exactly
Yeah.
how he was getting older. Obviously,
Yeah.
uh, whatever age he was past middle age somewhere.
Hmm. Yeah. I think from Mike McCarthy, at least from the three significant pieces of work that I've seen from him, um, it's that he always has, even though his books are overwrought and just like dreariness, I don't think he's a cynic because there's always a ray of hope at
Hmm.
either at the end or there's a through line throughout the entire narrative.
Yeah.
Because I know that the boy in Blood Meridian, he it was very ambiguous to see if he was like charged with the crimes. It doesn't really describe that.
Hmm.
But even though the judge is there and he's committing all these atrocities and making everyone do it, I think boy always just kind of withholds himself from it and he
Yeah.
he tries to escape and all that.
Yeah.
And
And I think the hopeful through line in Blood Meridian, we could talk for another
yeah.
couple of hours about what that means and what he's trying to say about the
Hmm.
real world in it.
Hmm.
But focusing on the road, what I think the hopeful through line means for the real world in that is that, like, no matter
Hmm.
no matter what happens to the adults as we kind of get older and we mess up the world or the messed up world affects us, there will always be young people who will come in and will want change and want us to change and want it to be better and push for it to be better
Yeah.
because they don't know what it was like before it was messed up or we messed it up or whatever.
Yeah. Exactly. They can learn from our mistakes, and that's kind of a hopeful
Hmm.
note to end on. And I was also gonna add like No Country for Old Men, because again, very overwrought with cynicism, but there's a dream at the end that talks about the fire being passed on. And actually, there
Hmm.
was a through line with No Country for Old Men, and here with the symbolism of fire, and people are like this connection there, kind of a
Yeah,
sequel or something.
yeah, I literally just read something online, somebody talking about that, but I didn't feel like I didn't know. I haven't read that much about it, so I don't know, especially because I haven't read No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, but not to say that that's not a very sound theory, but but like again, that's kind of that's a thematic through line throughout all his work. That
Mm,
even in terror, the youth will persevere and hopefully change the world for the better.
yeah, and that
So
there's always some hope alive.
yeah,
I think is something that he points to, even in a hopeless, dire situation. There's
yeah.
something
I'm
to
just
hold on
realizing how
to.
completely different our books are, just like in terms of the message. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well, I mean,
well,
that's part of the reason why we do this here at Not Just Any Book Club. So that way we can cover these topics and genres and go off in completely different directions if we so choose to.
that is very true. I've got nothing else to add about it. I mean, if you want to hear me talk about the road and completely bash it, you can
Yeah.
listen to our Cormac McCarthy episode.
I
Um,
don't think we got in. I don't remember us getting as in depth
get
about
into
the
spoilers.
themes and spoilers off the top of my head, but he definitely does bash it for sure. That definitely happens.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, if that's it, next month will be modernism, part
Mm,
2, because I mean, the episode that Justin does not want you to listen to,
you
we
shouldn't
did
listen to it.
modernism, and so we're doing it again to try and do it some
Rectify.
justice.
Yeah. Uh,
So, So we'll see. That'll be April. You can join us next month for that.
And
You can
yeah, we'll be watching a play, right?
yes. Next episode will be bookends. We'll be talking about a streetcar named Desire
By Tennessee
um,
Williams.
by Tennessee Williams. We watched a version of it. I cannot remember off the top of my head,
The
but
National Live Theater or something like that. London Theater?
yeah, we got absolutely legal access to this recording of this
Yeah.
play. So
Yeah.
don't worry
We're not
about
talking
that.
about the movie. We're not talking about the movie version. We're talking about
Yeah.
the play version, which you really haven't seen. So
Mhm.
prepare to be kind of confused, maybe not. Who knows?
Yes. Okay. So yeah. If you enjoyed, please give us a like, a rating, follow us, subscribe, whatever is on whatever platform. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
You can
Twitter's
follow us.
still alive.
Yeah,
We
you
don't
can
know
follow
what's
us
happened
on
to Twitter.
Twitter and TikTok at Not Just Any Pod.
Who knows if
If
they'll both be
those
there?
platforms exist still, I don't know what's going to happen
I
if
don't know
TikTok
either.
gets banned and Elon goes through with all this stuff he's trying to bring in. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know where we're going to promote our podcast if
Maybe the
anyhow,
younger generation can.
yeah. That's the
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Um
And if you see someone that's trying to advertise the podcast, just tell them goodbye, Prometheus. I don't know what you're talking about.
all right.
Toodaloo.